All right, we're going to go ahead and start a tutorial here regarding the making of a zone from scratch using new eqgzi-manager. Some of these steps and visuals will be changed based on your version, but to start, you want to go to github.com/Zachary eqgzi-manager, and specifically the releases, which you can find on the right-hand side over here. I would grab the latest release. In this case, I have 003 as my latest. And if you just open this zip file up, you can actually extract it wherever you like. The location does matter, but for the sake of this test, we're just going to do it in downloads. We're going to go and open up the manager. On the first run, you're going to see a single button that downloads the actual eqgzi and Lantern. This will be the latest version of eqgzi that it can find. And let's go ahead and hit that. You'll also notice that a zones folder gets created in cache and tools. All of that can actually just be ignored for now. And when it boots up the first time, you will see the Blender path should be auto-populated. If you do not have Blender installed, I recommend you go to the Blender website, download the latest copy, and then hit the detect button on here to update the path. You can technically type it in manually, but not recommended. So now that we've done this, you can see that there are no zones currently viewable. So let's go ahead and create a new one. And we're going to call Soul Dungeon B. And this is just because Soul Dungeon B has a save point at 000, but it could be any zone. It is recommended to only use zone names of existing zones. If you try to make one from scratch, it takes a client-side edit, which is possible, but it's a whole other ordeal. So we're going to save that. Once it's saved, if you hit the Open Soul Dungeon B folder, you can see that it opens the directory of wherever eqgzi was under the zones directory and then zones. And when you hit create new zone, it put in a bunch of placeholder files. For the most part, you won't need to go into the Explorer except for debugging. But let's go ahead and go to the next step, which is opening it up in Blender. So once we open up in Blender, we can see that it creates a scene of a single cube. And if you click on the top right over here, you can see it was shading. And with shading on, you can see that it's just simply a white cube. Not going to edit anything for now. I just wanted to show you that that's how you get it into Blender. Let's go ahead and create the Soul Dungeon B EQG button. And assuming everything is clean, you'll get a simple created Soul Dungeon B.eqg. And you can actually see a little bit of what happened there if you go into the folder. When you generate, it takes the blend file and all the resources and creates a cache. And this cache is prepping for eqgzi, which means all the textures go in here, the object file of the zone, and lighting and material. Then eqgzi processes all that and generates the eqg file for you, which is the output, as you probably are familiar with, for EverQuest. So with that all done and successful, you can run the debugger just to kind of take a look at this and see what exactly was exported. For the most part, you'll rarely use this, but you can kind of see how properties got set on materials, any of the faces and what their property values are. You can see the object models, if there's a placeable data or not. In this case, there's just the zone terrain. No regions were specified. The light data, that's useless. And this is also just some object data that we don't care about. You can start a viewer, and I can find it. There should be, there it is, a cube. So this is just a quick way to preview it before you get in game. Obviously, you can go into the out folder of your zone and just copy this to your EverQuest directory, or I have this handy little copy EQG to EverQuest, which you can then put the path of wherever EverQuest is, and hit save, just like that. And then if you generate again, part of the process of what it just did is it overwrote whatever the file was in Soul Dungeon B. You can see that the create date is right now. So we're going to go ahead and start EverQuest and not go in the ini file. Let's actually go into my pre-made EverQuest party zone just so it loads up quicker. And we'll go in game. And what should happen is if we go to Soul Dungeon B, the whole world will be a cube. There's a slight chance I might not land on the cube, but we'll see. Okay. Ignore my amazing CLZ background loading zone there. And all right, we're in game. And as you can see, doing something. It looks like I'm falling. So let's go to 0, 0, 0. There we are. There's the cube. Some of the particle emitters are from a existing zone that I had made. And that is technically a success. Let's go ahead and do some quick edits, and we can, well, we don't need to, we can go ahead up, open Soul Dungeon B, and let's go ahead and do some tweaks. Okay, so we're going to hit G for grab, Z for the Z axis, and 1. And what that does is now we are exactly in the center point of where a person would potentially be. Then we're going to hit scale X and Y by, okay, so if you press S, that scales. If you press X, that locks it to the X axis. If you hold Shift and then press Y, that'll make it for X and Y. And then if we say like 2, oops, let's do that again. Scale X plus Y, 2. Okay, that didn't work. Let's do 10, SY 10, SX 10. Now we have a bigger cube, right? Then let's hit Tab 3. That sets it to face mode. Click on the top face. Let's grab it, move it up to Z, and let's move it up by like 10, okay? So now we have a pretty big cube here. And let's go ahead and go inside the cube. And to navigate, you hold Shift, tilde, and then you can walk around with WASD. We're going to go ahead and add another mesh, or cube, sorry. We're going to go ahead and say GZ2, or sorry, GZ1, right? That's going to put it in the center of the screen. Then let's go ahead and scale Z by 2 and do another SZ1. This is the size of a human here, okay? Let's go ahead and assign a material to it. We'll hit Tab to go to object mode. Click on the cube, if we can. Is this the cube? Oh, whoops. I made this part of the same mesh. Let's actually fix that. We're going to delete. Let's just Control Z a few times. That's a little too many. Let's redo. I guess the mesh data is baked in, and now we have a baked in cube. Let's just start over real quick. I'm not great at the zone editing stuff. So let's make a cube in object mode. We're going to go GZ1, right? Then we're going to go SX10 and then SY10. Then we're going to go to edit mode 3, click the top, say grab Z by, let's say, I don't know, 10. Then let's go inside, just like we did, press tab, so we're in object mode, go add mesh cube, then SZ2, GZ1, oh, GZ2, and there's a human model at the center of the screen. Because we're going to actually start there, let's go ahead and move it off to like the X by, let's say, 5, and that's going to be our little sample model. Obviously right now this has no texture applied to it. So on the right hand side, after you highlight it in object mode, you can click this little beach ball, go to new. That's going to create a new material. You can rename it if you like. We're just going to call it like, I don't know, test cube. Then let's go to base color. Let's go to this little dot here, click image texture, click open, click white, because that's the PNG that was in the same directory. And we're just going to call this test cube up here as well by going F2 and clicking it up on here. Okay, so we have this little test cube. Then we're going to have a room cube. And inside here, again, we're going to hit new texture. We're going to rename it to room. We're going to hit base color, image, open, white, open, and we can go ahead and apply the materials on here. And here's our little room. So one issue you're going to hit whenever you try to like expand a cube like we just did and make it viewable by things, if you go to face orientation, how face orientation works, and again, if you on the top right, there's these little overlays. If you click the drop down, that's where face orientation is. When this is highlighted, it's showing you how each face is currently oriented. And right now, this cube down here is perfect, right? Because it's blue. You want everything blue. And if you walk out of the room, you can see how everything outside is blue. This means that these faces are oriented correctly. However, inside, because this cube is technically solid, this is not actually going to be rendered. So there's a couple ways you can work with this. The easiest I find is that if you highlight the object, hit tab, right? Hit A to select all the different parts of the object, go to mesh, normals, flip. What that does is now you can see the outer side of this cube is red. And then if you go inside, all the sides are now blue. So now we flip the normals to be the inside, and now we've essentially created a room. I went ahead and turned off face orientation, And now we got a room. Let's save it. Let's go back into the eqgzi. Let's hit generate. Then let's go in game by going into my profiles and starting up EverQuest again. So brought me back into Soul Dungeon B, probably at 000. And we can see the results of my quick tutorial. All right, get me in game. And there we go. A cube to the side. You can see it's roughly the size of me, which is about 6 feet. Then up above, you can see the room. And if we do go to, let's say 0030, we're now above it, and you can see how we can see inside and that all edges are transparent. That's because those faces are not rendering. There's no normals on them, which is how I wanted it. So there you go. And then you can just go to 000. We're back in the center in our white room. There you go. That's the tutorial.